an author, a lecturer, and she's also the mother of 8 children. And she spends a good deal of her time talking to teens about chastity. And chastity is saving that special gift of sexual intercourse for marriage. She believes so strongly about chastity that she talks to about 50,000 young people like yourselves each year in the United States and across Canada. Please welcome Molly Kelly.
Morning. Excited, delighted to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm excited because I get to speak to my favorite people in the whole world, high school students, about my favorite subject, sex. Now you should be excited. Sounds like it could be an interesting talk. I have to admit right up front to being a little nervous, not because I'm afraid of you, because I'm not. After all, after this talk, I'm out of here, so I'm not afraid of you. I'm also not afraid of you because I think your generation is less demanding of people than my generation. I think you'll make 3 demands of me today. Honesty, say it like it is, don't let us catch in a lie. Sincerity, say it because you care about us, and don't be boring. I think I can own up to all 3. I have no intention of being boring. I think the subject of sex should never be boring. I'm going to say it like it is, with respect, and I'm here for one reason and one reason only, because I, Molly Kelly, happen to be tremendously impressed with your generation. I say nothing I don't mean. I am not paid to say this, and I am not paid to do this. This is not a paid position on my part. I guess if you had to call it anything, perhaps you could call it a mission. I speak to 50,000 teens each year throughout the United States and Canada, which at least gives me the credibility to say how I see you. I find your generation sensitive, caring, concerned, non-judgmental, and very willing to get involved in good things. That's how I see you. I don't know how you see your generation. That's your problem. I know how I see you, and I will continue to say and do this until I no longer believe it. I have a message I want to give you because I think you're worth it and up to it. I'm not going to force anything on you because I can't, but I wouldn't if I could. That's part of my respect. I respect you enough to give you the message, and I respect you enough to realize that you're going to do with it whatever you want. I think you're worth it and up to it. You have to think you're worth it and up to it. And then if you do, I'd ask you to put it into action. A little bit about myself. I'm the mother of 8 children, 6 boys, 2 girls. 2 of them are still teenagers, and their names are Jimmy, Michael, Patrick, Brendan, Mary, Kate, Kevin, and Dan. And they are my most precious possessions, my greatest gifts, and why it is I do the things I do. I'm a widow. My husband was a physician, very active in speaking out to young people as a doctor. Jim went to Georgetown University, Georgetown Medical School. I met him when I was in college. We fell in love, got married, planned to spend the rest of our lives together, which is just what we did. Just didn't happen to be quite as long as I had hoped. My husband was killed in a sledding accident 15 years ago when our oldest was 12 and our youngest was 14 months. My oldest is now 28 and my youngest is 17, and up until about a month and a half ago, most of them are still at home. I finally got 2 off to college. 1 is in high school. 1 got married a few weeks ago. 1 is getting married in June. 1 is already married, and I have 3 precious, beautiful, adorable grandchildren who lived with me for the first 5 years of their marriage, and they finally bought their own little home 3 blocks from my house. So now they come over every day. They eat at my house, play at my house, mess up my house, and sleep at their house. So I hardly notice that they're gone. But that's probably all you have to know about me, other than the fact that I indeed am impressed with your generation. My own kids, though, do not agree with everything I've ever said in life, and that shouldn't surprise you. All right, it doesn't surprise me. And you may well not agree with everything I'm going to say today. And that won't surprise me, because I'm not here today to make you agree with me. I'm here to make you think. But my own kids do admire the fact that I take the message to teens, that I stand in front of you with the message. You know, every state I go in, regardless of what state I'm in, they all have a commission formed to study teen pregnancy, which is not my subject today. But I'm going to make a point with it. There happens to be 1.2 million pregnant teenagers in the country today, and the government has labeled it a problem. Now, I think the government worries about it because it costs the government money. I worry about it because I care about teenagers. But every state has a commission formed to study teen pregnancy. Here's the one from my state. I'm from Pennsylvania. Every state has one, all 50. All right, but most of them look like this. It's just about 20 pages, 100 pages, however long it is. Each state has one, and I'll just read you the cover of mine because it's the same as whatever state you're from. It says, report of the select committee to investigate the problem of teen pregnancies, and in this case, in Pennsylvania. Here's my question to you. Who do you think is missing on every panel, on every commission formed throughout the United States to study teen pregnancy? Who do you think's not on them? Teens. Well, who should be on them? See, it doesn't make sense not to have teens on the panel. That's like a bunch of adults getting into a huddle saying, what do we do about them? Seems to me you should be in the huddle. Teen pregnancy will never go down by adults sitting around a table and writing about it. Teen pregnancy will only go down, if it's going to go down, if teenagers make it go down. I use this example. I don't know how good it is, but I use it anyway. I have 8 children. What if I only had 3? I'm making this up. What if I only had 3? And what if I thought one of them was exceptionally ugly? I'm just making it up, right? And his name was Mark. And every time the doorbell rang, I used to hide him. Quick, get Mark. Anybody see him? And as he grew up, I kept saying, Mark, you are so ugly. Mark, you're uglier today than you were yesterday. Mark, do you take ugly pills? All day I did that to him. And as he grew up, Mark got a little better looking. But I didn't think so. And I'm his mother. Finally, Mark gets to be a teenager. And you know what? Mark's a good-looking kid. What does Mark think he is? Ugly, because all his life his mother said, Mark, you're ugly, ugly, ugly. Mark grows up and says, ugly, ugly, ugly. Sadly, that's what I see happening. Too many of my generation saying, not to you, not standing in front of you like I am, but about you in commissions formed to study you. Too many of my generation saying, teens today, teens and sex, they can't say no. They can't say no. They can't say no. Some of your generation hears some of my generation say it. Some of your generation then grows up and says, we can't say no. We can't say no. We can't say no. Sure you can. Totally depends on whether you want to or not. I'm here because it's my belief that if any generation could practice sexual responsibility, it's your generation. I believe your generation is very capable of being sexually responsible human beings. That's a great sentence. Just happens to have 2 different meanings. Depends on who's given the talk. To some people, sexual responsibility means to eat something, wear something, insert something in and on your body, then you're sexually responsible. That's one version. To other people, me included, sexual responsibility has something to do with self-control. I have no problem telling you what side I'm on. But then I think all of our control comes from within. I think of our control as being dictated by our intellect, our reasoning power, our ability to make decisions for ourselves and not have people sit around a table and make decisions for us because they don't think we can control ourselves. So I think control comes from within, not from things we put in and on our bodies. We can fail at things. We're human beings. I've failed at things, and I'll fail at more before it's all over. But when we fail, we have to be accountable for our actions. That makes us better human beings, accountability. But what if we're not depending on ourselves? What if we're depending on things and they don't work? Girl doesn't want to get pregnant. She takes the pill every day. Doesn't work. She gets pregnant. She relies on his condom, slips. Spermicide doesn't kill all the sperm. She can say, not my fault. It's not his fault. We used something. It's its fault. That would be one of my basic premises. Contraception, which is out there and easy to get, buys us out of accountability. It is a tremendous put down of your generation. And it's a multi-million-dollar business. Make no mistake about it, there are people out there in the world making a fortune off the sexual activity of others. Your generation's targeted. Oh, not because all my generation thinks all your generation is sexually active. Number one, all my generation doesn't think that. Number two, you have no way of knowing, we would have no way of knowing who is or who isn't. You're targeted because you need no form of parental consent or input to get any kind of contraception. My daughter's in high school. She brought this slip home. This is from Pennsylvania, right? But Mary Kate in high school brought this home, and this is on file at the school office. This is just a copy. It says, now all the schools in Pennsylvania were given this. It says the Pennsylvania Department of Health has issued new guidelines concerning the dispensing of medication in school. It says in order to dispense the following non-prescription drugs, that's over the counter. In order to give my Mary Kate, this is her slip, in order to give my Mary Kate, and mentions 3 drugs, Tylenol or an aspirin for headache or cramps, a Gelusil tablet for an upset stomach, or Robitussin for a cough. Now they're all non-prescription. But to give any of these things to my Mary Kate at school, I, as her mother, have to check off, which I'll allow them to give her, has to have my signature on file in the school office, or they don't dare give those things to my Mary Kate. What bothers me is my Mary Kate, and any girl here, any of you here, can go down to a family planning clinic, be given a prescription birth control pill. Parents don't have to know anything about it. Now really, I would be more upset probably than kids, because I believe that parents like their children, care more about their children than any family planning clinic cares. But another thing that upsets me, if you think about it, most products today come with what they call 100% money-back guarantee. You buy something, it doesn't work, you take it back. Say you saved up, you want to buy a brand new Sony Walkman, you like to jog, listen to your favorite tape. So you got this new Sony Walkman on, you got your tape in, you're out there jogging, all of a sudden, it doesn't work. You've had it 1/2 hour, the thing doesn't work. Most people would not take it off, throw it in the trash can and buy a new one, they're too expensive. Most people would take it back where they bought it and say, defective, give me a new one, or give me my money back. Most stores would stand behind their product. Not so with contraception. There's no contraceptive that's 100% effective, but guess what? There's no contraceptive manufacturer that claims to be. They don't have to. They're the only manufacturer I know that's allowed to deal in products that have such a great failure percentage rate. They're allowed to say, condom has a 14% failure rate, diaphragm at time of fertility has a 33% failure rate. Think about it, how does a girl take a pill back that doesn't work? Imagine the clerk's face when the guy comes in, my condom didn't work, right? You know, I fly a lot. I flew out here, all right? And, you know, what if I had gone to the airport and they said, oh, Mrs. Kelly, you know, you're going into this state or that state, and they said, have a nice trip, Mrs. Kelly, and then they said, here's your ticket, and thanks for flying our airline. We get there 83% of the time. And I said, well, what happens the other 17%? And they say, well, we crash. You know, to someone who flies a lot, doesn't sound real good. They're allowed to say that. When they talk about the pill, oh, they talk about the pill a lot. There was a recent study about the pill where they got some adults together in Washington, D.C., and they studied teen pregnancy. No teenagers there, all right? And the adults studied it and came up with this. Panel urges use of pill by teenager. Panel backs the pill in teen pregnancy fight. Now, what I'm saying is they're getting together saying, well, we'll get all the girls on the pill. When they talk about the pill, they use two phrases. They'll say the pill has a user failure rate and the pill has a method failure rate. Here's what they mean. They mean the girl can use the pill correctly, take it every single day, at the same time, never forgetting, loading her body with the chemicals of the pill. It can still fail. Or the pill works, but she uses it incorrectly. It doesn't come together. And as far as the condom, and God knows we are being condomized as a nation. Condom, condom, condom. You would think it was brand new. Do you know how old the condom is? Do you know that it dates back to the early Greeks? Trojan War? Sorry. All right. You know, recently I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was in this area, and there was a huge billboard down the center of town. And this was covered in one of the magazines because it was so controversial. Huge billboard down the center of town. All it said on it was AIDS, deadly disease, AIDS. That's all it said. But then as you drove closer, stamped across this billboard with the letter AIDS on it, stamped across it was big red letters that said, wear 'em. And then it had 10,000 condoms pinned to the billboard, which is dumb right there. That's 10,000 that don't work, right? If the condom fails, think about it. If the condom fails as a birth control method, you gain a life. What you do with it is up to you. If the condom fails in AIDS prevention, you lose a life. Stakes are high. We're talking about life and death situations. No contraceptive is 100% effective. And the more effective ones are the ones that have the more harmful side effects. I contend, now see if you can follow me, ready? I contend that giving our young people more and more and more contraception, which is what these commissions are saying, so you don't get pregnant or diseased, in my mind, can only make matters worse because, you ready? What they're doing is giving you the tools to do the very thing that causes the problems they want you to avoid. Did you follow that? In other words, how does a girl get pregnant? A girl doesn't get pregnant from not taking a pill. A girl does not get pregnant from him not using a condom. She gets pregnant from sexual intercourse. Well, you knew that before I came, all right? And as far as the deadly disease AIDS, and it is indeed a deadly disease, U.S. government reports out that as of the latest statistics we have, and it has already crossed over into the heterosexual teenage generation, AIDS has hit it, but the latest statistics we have, which are always a year behind, U.S. government comes out and says, not condemning, not condoning, giving a statistical statement. They said 89% of the AIDS patients as of about a year and a half ago, all right, because the statistics are always behind. They said 89% of them contracted the disease through homosexual transmission of infection, promiscuity, sex with multi-partners, and drug use, the sharing of needles. Now to turn around and say that we're going to solve this deadly disease by giving out clean needles and condoms, in my mind is not only not going to work, it doesn't make sense, and it's uncaring. We cannot turn around and claim to care about people and then give them something that may or may not work, and if it doesn't work, they're dead. To me, that's like playing rubber roulette. Doesn't make sense. It seems crystal clear to me. Seems crystal clear to me that if we could teach, encourage, and counsel people, especially young people, because you're reachable, to say no to drugs, well, guess what? That message is coast to coast. Everywhere I have been, no one has been afraid to say no to drugs. That message is out there. Not everybody listens, but it's out there. The other message we have to get out just as loudly and just as clearly as the say no to drugs message is the message to place sexual intercourse in marriage where it really belongs. You don't really say that, do you, Molly? I do. Then people will say to me, it's not going to work. And I'll say, why? And they'll give me 3 reasons. They'll say, number 1, some kids are going to do it anyway. Number 2, some people can't change their behavior. Number 3, it's none of our business. You know, my answer to that is wrong, wrong, wrong. As far as some kids are going to do it anyway, so what? Because some kids are going to do it anyway, we reduce everything down to that level and only give one message? You mean we couldn't possibly give them an option to and raise them up to this level? What if we had an auditorium that held 1,000 people and they invited the community in, and they had a speaker that was going to speak on the harmful side effects of drugs, and the speaker was a recovered drug addict, and the speaker was powerful because the speaker had been through it. So the speaker gets up in front of these 1,000 kids, anybody from the community, but mostly teens came. The speaker gets up and says, don't take drugs, they're bad, they're harmful, they almost ruined my life, I don't want it to happen to you, don't take drugs. Do you think after that talk, 1,000 kids heard that, there might be some of that audience hearing that talk, they're going to take drugs anyway? Do you think so? Sure there are. Some people are going to do it anyway. Does the speaker know that? Sure the speaker knows that, but the speaker's not going to change the talk. Speaker's not going to say, not everybody's going to listen to me. Maybe I better say it this way to cover my tracks. Maybe I better say, don't take drugs, they're bad, they're harmful, but if you're going to do it anyway, I'll meet you over the far door and I'll give you clean needles. Speakers don't change talks. I'll bet wherever you go to school, I'll bet your school has dealt with a drinking problem. Not necessarily that you have one, but in the country, we have a lot of teenage drinking. So I'll bet your school is not afraid to say to you, no alcoholic beverages, and around prom time, I'll bet they get heavy on the message. No drinking, no after parties where there's drinking. Are there going to be some kids this year in some high schools that drink anyway? Yep, not because you're a bad generation, because you're not. Human nature says some are going to do it anyway. Does the school know that? Yep. Is the school going to change the message? School's not going to say, faculty, this year we're going to lick this thing. This year we're going to have 2 proms, one for the drinkers and one for the non-drinkers. Anybody who's going to drink anyway, we'll put them in this room, we'll shut the door, we'll put buckets and towels around, they can throw up on each other all weekend, you know. Nobody will die on the highway. School's not going to change the message. You're going to get one message. What you do with it is up to you, all right? Here's what it sounds like. People out there in society are willing to say to you, don't take drugs, you can control yourself. Don't drink, you can control yourself. Then all of a sudden, when it comes to sex, some adults say, you can't control yourself. And they turn around to the girl and they say, here's a drug. Birth control pill's a drug. So here's what it sounds like. Don't take drugs, here's a drug. Control yourself, you can't control yourself. Has to be a little confusing to you. As far as some people can't change their behavior, sure they can. Everybody can. For some it's difficult. If someone's addicted to something, drugs, alcohol, whatever they're addicted to, they need professional help. Help's available, we got to get them to the help. And as far as it being none of our business, then it's none of our business to call ourselves caring people. And you are a caring generation. The only reason I'm here, I have you up here. I have a tremendously high opinion of teenagers, which I did not get from reading about you. If I based my opinion of teenagers on what I read in the newspapers, it wouldn't be that high. They don't tend to write the good things you do. Basketball game, fight breaks out, that's a great story, right? But if you're just sitting there doing nothing, that's not so interesting, all right? I have you up here because I'm constantly with you. No one can make me take you down from there. Some adults have a low opinion of you. Not all adults. There are many adults that have a high opinion of you. I'm afraid you don't hear it enough because we obviously do not say it enough. But there are many adults that have a high opinion of you, but some don't. I have met the adults that don't. I have debated with them. I have argued with them. They anger me. You have yourself somewhere in the middle. But you belong up here. You deserve to be treated like you're up there. In fact, you should demand to be treated like you're up there. Respect engenders respect. If you're respectful to people, they tend to be respectful back. How about after this talk is over and you want to get out of here and only one little door is open? They come up and say, okay, everybody, you can leave now. And everybody's kind of pushing and shoving. You've been sitting here for a while, and all of a sudden somebody steps back and says, go ahead. They let you go in front of them. They hold the door. You say, oh, thanks, makes you feel good. How about if you're all heading out towards the door, a little pushing and shoving, and the first 10 people fall down, and everybody else walks over them? Somehow I doubt whether the first 10 people go, thank you, you know, as they're walking. Doesn't tend to bring out the best in us. Treat people with respect, they act with respect. Treat people like animals, sometimes they tend to act like animals. Sadly, that's what I see happening. Too many of my generation treating your generation like animals when it comes to sex. Here's what some adults have actually said to me. They'll say, Molly, you travel around the country talking to teens about sex? I'll say, I do. Then they'll say, wow. And then they have advice for me. Now, I'm not opposed to taking advice. But this is advice from people who would never get up and say what I'm saying to you because they're afraid to. So they'll say to me, Molly, when you get in front of these kids, all right, now they're saying this to me. Molly, when you get in front of these kids, make sure you tell them that they have sexual urges, instincts, drives, desires. Somehow I think you knew that before I came, right? In fact, if you didn't, you're in more trouble than I think, right? I have 6 sons. This is perfectly normal. Take it, leave it. I don't know what you're going to do with this. But I have 6 sons, and this, I think, would be normal for my sons, and I'm their mother. I think it would be normal if my 6 sons were out in the street corner talking, right? A couple good-looking girls walk by. I think it would be perfectly normal for my guys to go, right? What would not be normal if my guys had to go, rah, you know, obviously. They can control themselves, right? So it's perfectly normal to have sexual urges, instincts, drives, desires. We are sexual human beings, right? Now, some of these same adults will say to me, well, it's normal to have them. It's also perfectly normal to give in to them. See, now that's where I would back off for a minute. You mean, does it matter when we give in or why we give in or with whom we give in? Well, some adults will say, it doesn't matter. The only thing we have to worry about, us adults, is to make sure that we teach you safe sex. I don't know whether you realize it or not, but that's a relatively new term. Safe sex was coined, that term, for your generation. It's only 7 years old about. The term safe sex means to eat something, wear something, insert something in and on your body, then you're safe. Safe from what? Well, pregnancy, disease. 100% safe? Well, not 100%. Could someone get pregnant relying on a birth control pill device? Yes. Could someone get AIDS relying on the condom to stop the transmission? Yes. See, I have a problem with the term safe sex. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's true. I think they could call it kind of safe sex, sort of safe sex, but not safe sex. And you tell me, are they the only consequences? You mean to tell me if someone doesn't get pregnant or disease, that's all there is to it? How about the emotional consequences to sex? Psychological consequences. Once someone says there are no other consequences, you know what they've done? They've taken something very good and beautiful, our sexuality. It's good. And they, through their safe sex message, have reduced our sexuality right down to the animal level. Dogs, cats, bears, elephants. They're sexual. There's little dogs, cats, bears, and elephants running around. We all know how they got there. Guess what? Animals don't care. They don't worry about it. They don't discuss it. There has never been a study on illegitimate elephants. There's no crisis pregnancy center for elephants out of wedlock. Not a good example. Let me try this. What if this whole area, for some reason or other, was overrun by deer? I don't know why. Weather got strange and the deer came out of the woods and they're leaping all over the properties. And for you to get home from school and you walk out the door, you have to dodge deer. I mean, they're leaping all over. How would they solve that problem in your community? Shoot them. Extend the hunting season. Right now in Wyoming, they've extended the hunting season. Too many antelope. Too many deer, you shoot them. You don't want your dogs and cats to reproduce. What do? I heard it. Shoot them, he said. Spade them, fix them, neuter them, or you keep them in if you know they're in heat. We're not animals. We're much higher than that. Imagine what it would be like if we treated each other like animals. Somebody comes up to you and says, "Where's John?" You say, "I can't come out tonight, he's in heat." I can't do that. I can't do that because I respect you, I respect your sexuality, and probably the most important line you're going to hear me say today. I respect your ability to make decisions about your sexuality. I'm not making decisions for you. Here's what I'm not going to do. Ready? I'm not going to come back tomorrow, find out where you go to school, go to your school. While you're in class, I'll go to the office. I'll run in. I'll find your mother's phone number. I'll call her on the phone. I'll meet her in the parking lot. We'll get into the car. We'll go to all the stores in the area. We'll run in. We'll get all the contraception off the shelves. We'll put it in big green bags, and we'll run away with it. We can call ourselves the Rubber Raiders. No, not going to do that. Why? Well, for me to spend all my effort taking contraception away from you is me trying to solve your problem. To me, to go up and down the aisles and give you contraception is me trying to solve your problem. Nope, I'm going to put it back in your court, where it belongs, with an option where you don't even need contraception. It's my belief that your generation is better than my generation as teenagers. You can't make that comparison. You live right now. You know what you're like better than anybody else knows what you're like. I lived as a teen. I travel with teens. I live now. I travel with teens. Making a comparison, I like you better. You're more sensitive than we were. My daughter feeds the homeless every morning down in Washington, D.C. this summer, and she worked at a crisis pregnancy center in the afternoon. My son just came back from a year in Samoa where he gave a year of his life teaching for no salary because he wanted to do that before he started his own career. You are a very caring generation, but you have many more problems than we did. Today there's 1.2 million pregnant teens, 420,000 teen abortions, 1/3 of all the abortions done in this country done on teenagers. When I was in high school sophomore year, in health class we studied 4 strains of venereal disease. Today there are 26 strains of sexually transmitted diseases. AIDS is here, now, and happening. Many more problems. When I went to high school, there were 500 in my high school. In my entire 4 years, I never laid eyes on a pregnant teen. You probably think we didn't know how to do it. Yeah, we did. We had sexual urges, instincts, drives, desires, but we didn't have a big problem with teen pregnancy. But you know what else we didn't have? We didn't have a lot of contraception. That's how old I am. The pill was not invented. I had 5 brothers growing up, and when my mother said to my brothers, "Put your rubbers on," she meant their feet. I could see my sons. "Mom said put our rubbers on." Oh, no. We did not have a big problem with teen pregnancy. We did not have a lot of contraception. What did we do? We didn't. You must not have had any fun. Oh, we did, but we didn't have a lot of the problems, but I stand by my statement. You are a very caring generation, and the problem is that there are too many adults in our society today that have caved in on you. Too many adults today have a preconceived, built-in failure notion of you. I don't. And in the second part, I'm going to tell you more. Thank you very much. Goodbye.